Hey guys, and happy Tuesday. I hope everybody's having a wonderful week so far, and hopefully everybody had a great weekend. Today, guys, I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite shows, and that's the time travel show, science fiction show, Quantum Leap. This came out in 1989. It made its premiere, and it ran for 5 seasons between 1989 and 93. And it's a great show, and it's one of my all-time favorites. So I've wanted to talk about it for a while. In particular, I'm going to talk about a two-episode arc that dealt with Sam going back in time to prevent JFK from being assassinated. So it's a great little two-episode arc, and it ties into my whole JFK time travel episodes here. There's one more next week where I'm going to talk about the miniseries 11/22/63 as well. So before I get into all that, though, guys, I figured I would give you, I'd do it a little bit differently today. I'm going to talk about the prologue because I figure most of you guys are time travel geeks, and you've probably seen a lot of time travel movies and a lot of time travel shows, and hopefully you've seen the original Quantum Leap television show. But for those that didn't, I'm going to read you the prologue that we caught in every episode. And I'm reading that because I feel like it's the best way to kind of like summarize the show in a nutshell. So here it is, guys. Theorizing that one could time travel within his own lifetime, Dr. Sam Beckett stepped into the Quantum Leap accelerator and vanished. He woke to find himself trapped in the past, facing mirror images that were not his own, and driven by an unknown force to change history for the better. His only guide on this journey is Al, an observer from his own time who appears as a hologram that only Sam can see and hear. Sam finds himself leaping from life to life, striving to put right what once were wrong, and hoping each time will be the next leap home. So yeah, that's the premise. It's simple enough. Basically, like a lot of traditional time travel movies and shows that were done, there was a machine. With this, he puts on a suit, he jumps into something called the accelerator, and uh, basically he leaps into someone else's life, and then someone else's body, excuse me, back in time, and then that person leaps into the hologram chamber where Sam's body is, and they basically leap into Sam's body in the hologram chamber. So when Sam arrives in the past, he looks in the mirror, he sees someone else's face. The first episode deals with this, and kind of divulges that. But that's like the nuts and bolts of what you need to know to understand good old Quantum Leap. So before I get into the actual episode, I figured now would take a time to basically break down some behind the scenes stuff, guys. Starting with the director. The director for this two-episode arc was a guy named James Whitmore. James directed 15 episodes in Quantum Leap of the 97. He also directed stuff like Jericho, NCIS, Dawson's Creek, Ray Donovan, and Star Trek Enterprise. So a little interesting television background there. Also, it was written by Donald P. Bellisario. Some interesting things about Donald. Donald is the creator of Quantum Leap. He actually wrote 14 of the 97 episodes. He directed one called To Catch a Falling Star. Kind of a little bit surprised he didn't direct more because I remember that episode, and that was a great episode, and he definitely has a talent for it, but I guess these things happen from time to time. Um, he also created Magnum PI, the original, and he also created NCIS. Um, Now, obviously, both those guys that I listed have a lot more credits. If you go on an internet movie database, just search at Google, you'll come across the website. You can find out all sorts of stuff. That's how I do a lot of my research. Next up, I'm going to get into Scott Bakula. Now, Scott Bakula, guys, he's one of my favorite actors. He's one of those guys that definitely should have a much bigger film career. He's been in a ton of stuff, but I feel like most of it's television, and there's nothing wrong with that at all because he's great at what he does no matter what. Um, but he's just got a magnetic personality, and when you see him on screen, he's just instantly likable. I don't think I've ever seen him play a role where you're like, man, fuck that guy. You know what I mean? He's just one of those people. Um, I'm not going to give you his entire resume. Um, some highlights that I thought were interesting, I'll go into. Like, believe it or not, he in the early '80s he did a Gung Ho. I don't know if you remember that movie. He was in a television series they made based off the movie. Um, he was in stuff like Murphy Brown, the television show from the '90s. He was in NCIS New Orleans. Um, he was in 155 episodes, so that's pretty impressive. He also did stuff like Star Trek Enterprise, where he played Captain Jonathan Archer, and he was in that one for 97 episodes, and that ran between 2001 and 2005. Um, he was in Major League, Necessary Roughness, Lord of Illusions. I love that movie. Stupid. It's got lots of flaws, but that's not one of the flaws. He's great in it. And like I said, the guy's got like a bunch of other stuff. You can go on Internet Movie Database. You'll find the whole reel. He's just a great actor. Now, the next guy, and he's playing Sam Beckett. If I didn't say that, pardon me. Is Dean Stockwell. Dean Stockwell, I would say is the equal lead in this show. He plays Admiral Al-Kavichi, and he's Sam's right-hand man. He's a hologram, like I said in the prologue, that only Sam can see and hear. And he's kind of his guide to helping him get through each leap, so he can help these people's lives and move on to the next leap. Now, Dean Stockwell sadly passed away at 85 about 2 years ago. Luckily, it was natural causes. Some interesting stuff about him is he's another one of these guys that does have a directing credit. And this is what makes this directing credit is even more interesting is he co-directed a movie with Neil Young. I didn't know Neil Young directed anything. But yeah, him and Neil Young did a movie in the 80s called Human Highway. I'm sorry, guys. I had to find it there for a second. And he's acted in over 208 different roles, stuff from like the original Battlestar Galactica all the way up to like that show Jag, to the Manchurian Candidate. He was in Batman Beyond, the animated movie Return of the Joker. He's been in stuff like The Rainmaker, McHale's Navy, The Player, Tucker, Married to the Mob, Blue Velvet, Beverly Hills Cop 2, Once Bitten, the original Dune, and another one of my favorites, The Dumb Car, guys. So this guy is just an incredible actor. And when he passed, it was one of those guys where I'm like, man, fuck. I would have really loved to have met him at a convention because he's just such a powerhouse of an actor. Now, in some other roles, we have playing the role of Oswald. We have Willie Garson. Now, Willie's one of these guys that popped up in a bunch of different stuff, mostly television, some film. The one that hit home with me the most was a movie called Untamed Heart. And in this, he plays a creep. He seems to play the creep role a lot. And Untamed Heart was a cool little movie. It came out in the 90s with Marissa Tomei and Christian Slater. There's actually the guy that wrote it, the screenplay is actually a local guy, a really good dude. And he plays a creepy guy. He's also been in stuff like Groundhog Day. He's been in stuff like the television show Supergirl, Magnum PI, Hawaii Five-0. He's been in that animated Netflix show Big Mouth. And believe it or not, another interesting little thing here. Back in '92, he was in another JFK movie called Ruby. And guess what, guys? He also played Lee Harvey Oswald again. So interesting, or at least I thought it was interesting. Playing his wife, Marina Oswald, is an actress named Natasha Pavlovich. And Natasha, I'm sorry, because I feel like I probably just butchered your last name there. Now, Natasha's been in a ton of stuff. Most of it's television from what I could see. It's usually like an episode here, an episode there. More notably, we got Monk, Alias, Jag, and I was too lazy to write her entire career down for you guys. So again, just go on an Internet Movie Database if you're really interested in finding out her entire career. So she's also been in a bunch of stuff. I guess you'd call her a day player, an episode of this, an episode of that. She does a great job in this 2 episode arc. Um, Consider she's a day player. Like the emotionality that she brings to the scenes that she's in. She's not in a lot of scenes, but what she brings is great. So my hats go off to you, Natasha. So now, guys, I'm going to actually start getting into the episode. I've got my cheat sheet here, guys, and like I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, unfortunately dealing with bronchitis, so my voice is a little bit shot, and I'm just doing my best to recover here. So it's been kind of a crazy month between I had upper respiratory in the beginning of November, and then at the end of November I ended it with bronchitis. So I'm a little bit out of it. But I did my best, and I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. So all that said, I'm going to get into the actual episode. Enough of my excuses. The episode opens up, and we see Sam, and he's on in front of a house, and it looks like probably the front yard, and he's got a rifle with a scope on it, and there's a girl that's probably in her late 20s, early 30s, dark hair, named Marina, and she's taking pictures of him with the gun in his hand, and he's got a real serious look on his face, and she's like, Alec, Alec, and she has a very thick Russian accent. She's like, is it all right if I stop taking these pictures of you? You look like a fascist, and I have many things to do. And he snaps. This is Sam. Sam's not the kind of guy that normally snaps. At first, he's not sure what's going on because he just leaped. So he's trying to assess the situation, but he snaps and he grabs her arm. And he's like, I'll tell you when to stop taking pictures. And he's really nasty. And he realizes that she's talking to him in Russia, and he's able to answer back in Russia. And he says, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to snap at you. I'm really, really sorry. He realizes right away that something's wrong. He's catching himself. Like, what just happened? That's not who I am. Sam's like a Boy Scout, He's not the type of person to grab someone's hand violently or to snap at them. Just that's not who he is. He's not that guy. He asks, can you understand me when I speak back to you in Russian? And she's like, yes, of course. I was the one that taught you Russian. And then he's like, what if I speak to you in English? And she's like, I understand a little bit of English, but not much. So he's realizing that obviously, number one, something's off because he stepped into this guy has violent tendencies, and for whatever reason, it's rubbing off on him. And number two, he's realizing that he's never been able to speak Russian before, but also there must be some sort of kind of merger with this guy where his mind and his emotions are merging with this guy because he's also able to pick up some of these things that this guy is able to do that he's not able to do. So from there, the girl who we find out, whose name is Marina, she leaves. And Sam sees a newspaper, and he picks it up in his hand, and he looks down on the date on the newspaper, and it says March 21st, 1963. And then he sees the rifle, and he just instinctively picks it up and goes to aim. And again, it's not something like Sam's not a violent guy. He's been trained in like different things and stuff like martial arts and stuff like that. But it wouldn't be something that would be it wouldn't be something that's normally characteristically of that character. To just pick up a gun. Picking up the newspaper to kind of figure out where he's at, that makes sense. Because he never knows where he's going to leap in time. But there's a lot of like little clues right off the beginning. Something doesn't seem right. So he picks up this newspaper, he picks up the gun. I'm not losing it, guys. He picks up the gun and he goes to take aim. And then all of a sudden we see a flash and we cut. And we're seeing through the scope of his gun, we're seeing downtown Dallas. And we're seeing the convertible that JFK was in, John F. Kennedy. and he's in there with his wife in the back seat and a couple people in the front seat. And we hear a loud shot, like a gun went off. And as a viewer, we're like, whoa. And then Sam leaps. Uh, and what's interesting, just bear with me, guys, he leaps and now he's on a target range and he's wearing a military outfit and he's shooting a target. And just as he fires the gun, he screams because he just leapt into this person at the target range just after he just shot a gun the last time. So he's a little bit on edge. And we see a drill sergeant that's like standing right above him, and he's kind of making fun of him for being a girl, for screaming, he's like, stop being a little sissy. But despite that, he still hit the target perfectly. And the sergeant introduces himself as Sergeant Lopez, and he says, despite you screaming like a little girl, it looks like you're going to make it as an expert. He hands him another bullet, and Sam hesitates for a second before he reloads it because he's not, a gun expert. That's not who he is. He grew up on a farm in Indiana. He probably went hunting with his dad, but he's not by any means a gun expert, especially when it comes to military rifles and that kind of stuff. And he's also kind of shocked because the way he leapt with this violent image and then right into a gunfire again. So a lot of stuff is just throwing him off. It's also interesting because he leapt pretty quickly from the last leap. It's only been maybe 10, 15 minutes. He also realizes that he's in the same body. And the drill sergeant calls him by his name, Oswald. He goes, fire that gun and stop fucking around, essentially something along those lines. I'm ad-libbing, guys, but essentially something like that. And he asks the drill sergeant, he says, Sergeant Lopez, how far is the target? And he's like, you know damn well how far it is. And Sam fires, and he misses. And the drill sergeant makes fun of him again. And this time he gets a little bit snippy with him. He goes, I love you too. And he's making fun of the drill sergeant's accent because the drill sergeant is of Hispanic descent, and you can tell that he has a little bit of accent, and he's just kind of making fun of him. He's calling him like Sergeant Beaner. And at that point, the drill sergeant just flips out. He grabs him by his nose and tells him, he ever talks to him again like that, and you'll see exactly how good he can shoot. And just as that's going on, and that little pleasant exchange happens, Al appears. And just as he's firing, and he misses the target, and Al confirms that he has leaped into Lee Harvey Oswald, and that it's October 5th, 1957, at Sugi, Japan. And the drill sergeant tells him if he wants to leave here in one piece, he better keep his mouth shut. And Al confirms that. He's like, Sam, you can't mess with this guy. He can make your life a living hell. And Al calls him out on his behavior because he also knows that Sam doesn't behave like this. Like, he doesn't flip out on people. He scolds him for talking to the sergeant the way he did. And Sam just says, hey, listen, I don't know what came over me. The words just came out of my mouth. And he's wondering if it has something to do with leaping into the same person twice. I explained to Al that he already leaped into Oswald right before this, and he was speaking Russian, and he tells him basically what happened previously. Al tells him that's highly unlikely, but I guess it could happen. It's just not something that happens, really. Um, Tells him his other name was Alec, that he went by. Hold on one second, guys. And Sam tells him, he feels like Oswald is kind of controlling him. Alan reminds him that when he leaps into someone, he still retains everything that makes up Sam, who Sam is. Like that this Lee Harvey Oswald guy, even though we all he's a nut, he's not supposed to be controlling you, and that doesn't seem right. That shouldn't be. And Sam's like, no, but it is, so we need to figure this out because I'm not supposed to be doing this, Um, Obviously I know that I should be in control. Um, he's concerned because he's not sure if he can control him. Uh, and from there, just bear with me for another second here, guys. uh, you know, Al says, listen, you can get through this. We've been through everything. We can figure this out. You can handle it. Sam's just worried that he's going to leap into him again, and he's hoping that he can leap into him and have enough control over him to prevent the assassination of John F. Kennedy. Because it's like normally the way things work with Quantum Leap is they leap into regular people, uh, and they change things in people's lives, but they don't change something as profound as the death of John F. Kennedy. Um, so they're both kind of thrown off by that too, because it's just not something normal. They might save a guy from getting hit by a car, or something like that, or save a guy's marriage or something along those lines. But when John F. Kennedy died, it impacted so many people in the country. So this is something that's throwing them both off. But it seems like the only logical thing that he could be here to do, at least at this point in the episode. Al tells him that he might be here in Atsugi, Japan, because um, that's where it's believed that Lee Harvey Oswald first came into contact with some Russians and the KGB. He tells him that that's just one theory, of course, but he thinks it's a possibility that the KGB might contact him soon. Al tells him that Oswald is a radar operator. Is a radar operator, and he knew all the frequencies and all the codes. Something very desirable for the KGB, obviously, to have. He also knew about a secret spy plane called a race car. Now, from here, this is something also cool, guys. Something that we don't see very often. We cut to present day in New Mexico, where the Project Leap, is home base, and it's 1999, February 14th. And Al's actually talking to the real Oswald in the imaging chamber. This is just something that just didn't happen in the show very often. Al asked him if he was ever approached by a foreign agent in Japan, and Oswald responds, "That depends. Are you a foreign agent, Al?" He's playing it very straight. He doesn't want to give away any information. He feels like maybe he was kidnapped by the government, and something's going on. He's in shock that he knows Al's name because he just called Al by his name. Something isn't right here, and he looks in a mirror and sees Sam's face and starts screaming because he's like, hold on a second, I'm not myself. From there, we cut back to Japan, 1957. We see Sam in the radar control tower, and he's waiting for numbers down. He's writing numbers down on the glass screen that have to do with the flying planes. He forgets to write something down properly. You're supposed to write it down backwards, so the people on the other side can see it, and he doesn't do that. And all the guys make fun of him for it, and give him shit. Question what he's doing. It's like, this is your first day of the job. Why are you fucking up? Essentially. Al appears and helps him out and tells him that it's likely that the KGB is going to contact him later tonight at a bar Oswald hangs out called the Nagayasha. Um, so we cut to later on that night at the bar, and Sam is approached by a Korean guy in drag called Mama-san, and she tells him he was missed. She says she hears on the street pillow talk that Marines are up to something. Hush, hush. Uh, she says she heard the Marines are going to be leaving soon, going to the Philippines, and she asks if this is true. Sam responds, "Why do you need to know?" And she responds, "The Marines are my friends." Um, and she just wants to know because she doesn't know if she's going to lose all her business, because this bar is not just a bar, but it's also a little whorehouse. And she doesn't know if she's going to have to send the girls back to the farms they came from. So bear with me, guys. Mama-san leaves, and Sam is approached by one of the women in the bar, um, a girl named Mariska. Uh, she's Russian. She's familiar with Oswald. We come to learn that they're an item. Mariska loves Oswald and has been teaching him Russian. They kiss. He tells her to talk to him in Russia. She thinks that's the reason he's with her. She's like, "Oh, well, the only reason you're with me is because I'm part Russian." And that's all he cares about. She thinks that they should move back home to the USA and live together. He does not like that at all, and he snaps. And you can see Oswald taking over again. He's like, "My mom slaved for the capitalist pigs and it got her nothing." It's like, "I want to move to Russia and make a difference there." She says he's the only Marine that hates the USA. He grabs her by the neck and asks how much time she's spending with these other Marines. She screams out, "They just buy me drinks. It's just part of the job. I'm loyal to you and only you. You're my only boyfriend." He grabs her close violently and kisses her, and Al walks in, witnessing the kiss. Of course, he didn't witness the violence before. Um, she apologizes. "I'll never mention the USA again. We can go to Russia and you can defect and become a citizen of Russia." Now, next we cut to Sam. He's got to talk to Al, so he goes into the bar. Excuse me, guys. I can make words today, I promise I can. He goes to the bathroom with Al, and Sam tells Al he can't control Oswald. Again, he said, he's reiterating what he said earlier. He said he's taking over his mind and how he's behaving. Al tries to reassure him again. He's like, "Listen, I get it, but you can control him. You are able to do this." Um, just as he's walking out, good old Drill Sergeant Lopez from earlier uh, comes walking in and asks him what a small fish like him is doing in a shark's bar. And Sam reacts by swinging at him violently. They get in this huge fight. And Sergeant Lopez is coming out ahead. Sam's fighting like Oswald, and he's becoming Oswald. You can see how it's taking a hold of him. And Sergeant Lopez pretty much collectively has his ass dead to right as far as the way this fight's going. But then suddenly, Sam pulls out a small gun and points it to his neck, and he threatens to shoot him. And Al starts freaking out because he realizes that he's losing his friend. His friend is really losing control here, and he has to do something. And he figures, how can I do this? How can I get him to snap out of it? So he goes into his little HoloLink that he uses to communicate with the project, and they say try asking him about something about quantum physics that only Sam would know. Just force him to get him to spit out facts about quantum physics, And hopefully that'll be the thing that breaks him out of this trance, because he's like in this trance where he's just acting and behaving 100% like Lee Harvey Oswald. He's not himself. Um, so after doing that for a little while, thankfully it does work. And just as he's snapping out of it, he leaps again. And this time, we cut to January 6th, 1959, Tustin, California. You can see he's in an office, and he's Lee Harvey Oswald yet again. And a soldier approaches him looking for the duty list. He's looking for some friends that are stationed there. Sam eventually finds the duty list. And just as he does, Al shows up and explains he's still Oswald and tells him his location. Sam asks why he leaped out of Japan. Al says originally in the history books, Oswald killed Sergeant Lopez in the bar in Japan. But in this history, Sam changed things. Sergeant Lopez lives, and he goes on to save 15 troops in a later battle. So he's already having an impact as Sam. But then Sam's like, well, if I've already done that, shouldn't that have been the reason I left and made this leap to begin with? To save Sergeant Lopez and to prevent the lives of those 15 soldiers? And Al's like, well, no, because you're still here and you're still leaping. Al believes Sam is still Oswald to uncover the JFK assassination and to learn more about it. So he's having this conversation. Meanwhile, the soldier's still there. He sees that Sam's reading a newspaper, and it's a communist newspaper, basically. Sam says it's the only newspaper worth reading. And the guy just gives him a dirty look. And then, again, Sam leaps. This time, it's October 21st, 1959, excuse me. And he's in the KGB headquarters in Moscow. He's obviously Oswald again, and he's sitting in a chair facing a Russian man. The man talks, "We were waiting, Mr. Oswald." Sam responds, "Waiting?" unsure of what this man wants. The man responds, "Yes, for your knowledge. You told our consulate in Helsinki you wanted to defect. You said you would share all of your knowledge." Sam snaps like Lee Harvey Oswald. He's in a trance. Hold on one second. While that's going on, we cut again to Al, again in present day, which is February 15th, 1999 in New Mexico, and he's talking to the real Oswald. Oswald's looking into the mirror again and seeing Sam's face staring back. He tells Al to explain what's going on. Al says, "You wouldn't understand." Oswald insists. So Al tells him, "Oh, you're part of a time travel experiment that went horribly wrong." Essentially, and of course Lee Harvey doesn't believe that. So then Al asks him something. He says, "Okay, well, just answer this question. Explain what string theory is." And surprisingly enough, Oswald is able to explain exactly what string theory is and quantum physics is. And then he realizes that something is definitely off. Besides the obvious, which is staring into a face that's not his own. Oswald gives the perfect answer. And then exclaims, "How did I know that?" And then we again do a cut back to Sam again in the office with the KGB, giving away all his military information from when he was a Marine. Al appears suddenly as Sam is talking about the special military plane known as Race Car, and how it runs secret missions saying over Russia and China. Al, bear with me guys, Al sees him spilling his beans and yells for him to stop. Al tells him how Oswald was able to speak with ease about Project Quantum Leap. the KGB excuse him. And Al tells him for right now, he has to let things play out like they did in the original timeline so they can figure things out better. Um, because they're still not 100% sure. They think they're there to stop the assassination of JFK, but they're not sure 100%, even though you would think that would be the obvious. So he wants them to play things to play out like they regularly did in the original timeline. So Al says in the original history, Oswald, on October 21st, 1959, was found in his hotel bathtub with one of his wrists slit from trying to commit suicide. Of course, this upsets Sam. He's like, I'm not going to do that. Al assures him. Olga, his in-tourist guide, finds him and saves him. And Al explains Oswald was on a 6-day U.S. visa, which expired today. He believes that by doing that, the government extends his visa, and that's where he meets his wife, or future wife, Marina. So Sam is just about to start slitting his wrists, and then he leaps again. We cut to April in 1963, and it's Dallas, Texas. He's in someone's backyard holding a sniper rifle in the process of loading it, or reloading it, excuse me. A big monster of a dog appears and starts barking at him and chasing after him. He barely manages to escape, but he gets home and Mariska is there. She confronts him, reading a letter he wrote for her. It says, "If I'm captured and still alive, reach out to the American Embassy, as they can help." She's very upset and yells at him to tell her what's going on. He screams back at her, "I'm here and still alive, so forget about it." So again, I know I keep on reinforcing this idea, but yes, he's still very much in the mindset of Lee Harvey Oswald. And like I said, this is really crazy only because this is something that normally doesn't happen in this show. Doesn't have the original person he jumps into, doesn't have this much of a stronghold on Sam. So this is some pretty intense stuff. Sam has a sudden vision, and he's replaying a memory of Oswald's. In this memory, he's got his rifle, and he shot a man. We find out the man is General Walker. She cries, "Why would you do that?" And he tells her, he was a fascist like me. Or he was a fascist like Hitler, excuse me. Al shows up, and he explains that Sam leaped into Oswald after he fired at Walker, but he lucked out, and Oswald missed Walker by an inch. Mariska interrupts Sam talking to Al, still upset. She pulls out a journal. That's Oswald's game plan to kill JFK. Sam is still in a daze, and you can tell he's acting more and more, again, like JFK. Or, excuse me, acting more and more like Oswald. Pardon me, guys. Sam then leaps again. This time it's August 9th, 1963. And he's in New Orleans. And he's outside of a building handing out flyers that say, "Hands off Cuba." A woman confronts him and says she doesn't believe in communist propaganda. He asks her why she believes that. And she tells him, because everyone knows that Castro was a communist. And Sam replies, he believes Castro is just leading Cuba in a revolution like Washington did for the United States. He almost convinces her to join the cause, flirting with her until she sees his wedding ring, and then she leaves, saying, why didn't you tell me you were married, But, like this guy, believe it or not, does have some charm. Who would have thought? Lee Harvey Oswald, Mr. Charming. So Al appears and sees what is happening. Sam is still behaving like Oswald. Al yells him to snap out of it and tells him it's August 9th, 1963, and he's only months away from the JFK assassination. He has to snap out of it, otherwise Oswald will be in control and still kill JFK. And he's saying, fight him, Sam. You can do this. Don't let this guy take over. Right after that, Sam leaves again. This time it's November 21st, 1963, Dallas, Texas. And it's the Oswald home, and it's evening. And we see him watching Kennedy on the TV at a press conference. Next day, he's drinking his coffee and watching Kennedy on TV again, talking. He sees his baby in his crib, and he quietly leaves his house, grabs his rifle with the scope, and wraps it up tightly in a cloth. And then he just goes to work. Sam works his way up to the 6th floor of the book depository. He opens the window, pulls out the rifle, and sets up the perfect shot. We cut to the footage of JFK slowly driving through downtown Dallas. And we're just kind of building up the tension here, you know. JFK's car is getting closer and closer to the book depository. Al enters the room and tries to break Sam out of the trance he's in. Al's talking to him about his family. And he's telling him, remember, it's 1963. Your dad, he's still alive. He's on the farm and he's teaching you how to hunt ducks. He's doing any last desperate thing to get Sam to snap out of it, to become Sam again, you know. Luckily, Sam does snap out of it. And just as he snaps out of it, he leaps. And we see him, and he's downtown on the streets. And he's wearing a suit, and you can see the president, and a gunshot just went off. So right after he leapt, Oswald leapt back into his original body. He fired the gun and took a shot at the president. Sam quickly realizes that he's part of the Secret Service, and he races to the convertible, and he leaps and covers JFK and Jackie Kennedy. They get to a hospital, and Al's there now. And we realize that, unfortunately, despite their best intentions, they couldn't save John F. Kennedy. And you can see Sam, and he's tearing up, and he's like, why was I here if I wasn't here to save John F. Kennedy? You know, I don't get this. You know, this whole leap has been traumatic, and I thought I was here for this. And Al tells him, well, you know, you weren't here to save John F. Kennedy, I guess. In the long run, you know, that wasn't your goal after all. But you know what you did, know who you did save. And Sam's all ears at this point. He's like, no, who did I save? And he's like, you saved Jackie Kennedy. Because in the original timeline, Jackie was shot too, and she died as well. And thanks to you, she lived. So it's interesting in this history, Jackie originally died. So with that, Sam leaps. And that's the end of the episode, guys. I appreciate you guys being patient with me today. Sorry, I had to readjust here. I know I'm a little off my game these last couple episodes. This episode, I could tell, was a little bit rougher than I would like to have been. Like I said, I'm still not feeling 100%. And I just wanted to get it out to you guys. Next week, like I said, I'm going to be discussing the third part of my time travel JFK stuff, which will be, like I said, the mini-series 11/22/63, starring the always talented Mr. James Franco. So I hope you guys are here for the ride, and hopefully you enjoy this episode. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Um, just a couple quick shout outs to some of my friends and some other wonderful podcasts. Um, if you guys have not listened to yet, I'm going to give you 3 podcasts that you should be checking out. Number one is the Not a Bomb podcast with Brad and Troy. Every week, these guys take something that bombed at the box office that was either a critical failure or a commercial failure, and they go into an in-depth discussion about it, and it's a great show. Um, this week, I believe they're going into The Flash, so you guys should check that out. Next, we have The Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema with Will and Sam. And these guys also do an amazing little show each week where they discuss a lot of great films. And there's just a wide variety. A lot of it's stuff I've never heard before. Some of it's more mainstream, some of it's not. But these guys also have a great chemistry together. And they have really great in-depth discussions. And then finally, I'm going to go into Watch Skip Plus, which is another wonderful little podcast. These guys are great because they cover the stuff that's going on in the movie theaters usually, or something that's currently streaming. But what also makes this great, Justin and Jose, they also do something cool. They do a plus. And the plus could be anything from a new piece of technology they've gotten, or it could be a video game they started playing, or a new product on the market that they're enjoying. So these guys are also wonderful, and they're well worth checking out. So definitely be sure to check it out, guys. So that wraps up episode 20 for you. And I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you next week.